I've got my square completely covered with the hue. Sometimes when using acrylic it's quite thick. You'll need to go to the water and just get a very tiny amount just so you can get the paint to flow a lot smoother and flatter and neater. And that flat brush works really nice for getting right up to the lines so you can have a really neatly completed square. Now we're going to move over to the plate and we're going to start mixing our tint. You take a large amount of pure hue and a smaller amount of white, and you begin to mix them together. Cut. Now we've got our tint mixed, and my paintbrush, you'll notice, is quite globbed up with paint. So before I go to my paper, I want to wipe it off with a paper towel, lift a little bit of paint up, go to your paper. Notice how thick this paint is. You might at this point need to dip your brush just very lightly in water so that it smooths the paint out so you get a nice thin layer of paint. Acrylic paint tends to get globby. If you don't smooth it with a little water, you're going to have textures and bumps, which you know in some paintings you're going to want, but for this application today we want a nice smooth application of paint. Now I've completed the first tint. You can tell it's a little bit lighter. We're going to go back to our large pile of paint and add more white to that. We're going to continue adding and mixing one little glob of white at a time to get ever so slightly lighter as we continue down our value scale for tints. I'm going to wipe that off again and go back to my paper now with my new tint. I've completed my first row of tints, and now we're going to move over to the plate and begin the shades. Once again, you begin with a large amount of pure hue. Notice how much less black I have than white on my plate, because black is so intense and strong you hardly need any to change the color for your first tint. Just very little bits on the corner of your paintbrush. Dip into the black. Just add a very little bit at a time. Mix it evenly. Wipe your brush of excess paint. Go back to your color and then to your chart. And cut. Now I'm going to add a little bit more black to that last shade, just to go a little bit darker. I'm not going too dark all at once. That's the important thing when you're doing shades, is not to add too much all at once, because it can get dark really fast. Wipe your brush and go to your paper. You can cut. Now you've completed a value scale for one color. You have your shades and your tints. Go on to the next slide for your assignment in this